Tenikka, I'm not going to lie, I'm a little starstruck right now.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. This is awesome. Tell us a little bit about more about you first. Are you originally from Jacksonville?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me to be a part of this. I'm super stoked to be here. No, I'm not from Jacksonville. I am from North Carolina, a little town called Whitakers. The population is less than 1,000.
Wow.
One stoplight, grew up eating gas station food. So yeah, I'm like a small town country girl.
Oh, man. That is interesting.
That's awesome. What brought you to Jacksonville?
My company, Cox Media Group, I worked for the same company in Charlotte for 5 years. And then Action News Jax went through some transition, and I was approached about coming down here to interview. So I did, and I got the job.
Wow. I'm from a small town, too, but there's more than 1,000 people. I'm from Niceville, which we always laugh about here. It's a real town.
It sounds fake.
No, it does.
Right,
It sounds like a movie.
Exactly.
It's real, and it's got about 13,000 maybe.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
But one library.
Yes,
but
one
not
library.
One stoplight.
Well, not one stoplight.
Yeah, we had one library, one room library.
Wow.
Yep. Tiny.
Oh, man. You're spoiled here in Jacksonville.
We
21.
sure
I'm
are.
serious. We
Yeah,
always
yeah.
talk about that.
I bet
That's
this
crazy.
is pretty different. Yeah.
Yeah, this is a really nice library system.
Yeah. Well, we know you have a vested interest in reading as well. Tell us where that love of reading started for you.
It started as a child. My family, growing up, I come from very humble beginnings. And so we didn't put a lot of emphasis on material things, but books was something that we had available. So I'm from a single parent home. I was raised by my mom, my aunt, and my grandmother. And my aunt was also an educator. So we were really fortunate to have access to books. I remember, I'm gonna date myself. We had a set of encyclopedias at my house. Did you use that growing up? When we would have projects or schoolwork, we had a set of encyclopedias at home. Kids don't even
No.
don't even have a clue.
Yeah, we did. We had Wikipedia when I was in school.
See,
so,
no, we
yeah.
had actual physical hardcore
Oh,
books,
man.
and that was just so awesome. And so with my aunt being an educator, we had a lot of books around the home. And then also my mom, every day when I was a little girl, I used to always beg, can I go to school? I wanted to go to school. I have an older brother and an older sister. And before my baby sister came along, she would say, no, baby, you're not old enough to go to school yet. But she would take me to the little one-room library and read to me and let me read every single day. And so that love for reading really started early. And just they realized this girl has a huge imagination. And those books were like that place that I could just go to and just kind of let that all go.
Wow. It seems like you came from a lot of strong female role models, too, which is super important.
Absolutely. And I wouldn't trade anything for the world. I mean, all those women, my grandmother, she just turned 100 and she's still with us.
Wow.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah, it's such a blessing. And so, yeah, they just instilled in me to be that strong person. I always, looking back, I appreciate the fact that they never made us stifle our voices. We were always able to, if we didn't understand something, they encouraged us to ask questions. So that kind of helps me out now.
Yeah.
Fast forward to adulthood. So
True,
yeah.
true. They set you up well.
They did.
Yeah, and being a public figure now, I feel like, you are that strong female role model for a lot of kids, especially with your work with all the children and the books for kids and stuff. I think that's great. Full circle.
Thank you. And it's so important for me to do that. And particularly, I love impacting children everywhere and in all over our community, but particularly in some of our underserved communities, because I know what it's like growing up in poverty and from a single parent home and from some circumstances that are non-traditional. And I feel like for me personally, it's important to let people understand that, hey, your circumstance doesn't have to dictate your outcome. And I'm a living testimony to that.
Right. That's awesome.
Yeah.
And did the Tenikka's books for kids kind of grow out of that, do you think?
In part, I'm always, I do a lot of reading through the Kids Hope Alliance, Jacksonville Children's Commission, the Jax Kids Book Club. I'm always going to school speaking. And so Carla McKell, our community coordinator, she approached me and we were talking about and I've always told her, if there's anything dealing with books and reading, let me know. That's my passion. Mm-hmm. And so she talked to me about the summer learning program and how, partnering with the library to collect books. And I was like, we were like, that's a perfect fit. And so we were off to the races.
Wow. And you guys did incredible this summer. Do you remember how many books you guys collected?
We collected more than 3,100 books, and I was hoping for 1,000.
Yeah.
I was hoping for 1,000, and we got more than 3,100. And toward the end, we started collecting some gently used books because we did have some people who just, had some that they were like, my kid used this book a couple times and wanted to pass on, but more than 3,000 books.
And those are mostly new books.
Yeah,
which is
the
amazing.
majority are brand new.
Wow. That is awesome. And what are those books being used for?
So as a part part of the Jacksonville Public Library Summer Learning Program, children are being challenged to read 15 minutes a day, and with the goal of trying to hit 6 hours. Once you hit that 6-hour goal, as a reward, you can come and pick out a book from the Tenikka's Books for Kids collection, so you get a brand new book. And so that's important in other ways that we can talk about, because for one, it helps to build your home library. So many kids do not have access to books or to age-appropriate books. So you read 15 minutes a day, hit that 6-hour goal, and then you can come and pick out a book of your own to have.
Wow.
That's great. Yeah. So why do you feel it's so important for kids to have access to their own books, not only outside of their homes, but at home?
It's so important for a number of reasons. I mean, so we talk about making sure that kids can read and having access to those books, but it's also important that the adults, the guardians, the siblings in their lives read to them. There are so many studies, and I could spat out a lot of numbers, but there's so many studies that talk about the impact of reading on children. So for example, let's talk about younger kids. When you read to them, read with them, it helps them, those kids have they have a better understanding of recognizing letters. Mm-hmm. So they're able to say their alphabet. That also transfers over to being able to count and also write their names. It just helps them to have better overall understanding. It helps with their learning development. So there's just so many benefits. And we do find that studies show that with low-income families, you see less of that because, again, they don't have the resources to purchase books, and they don't necessarily keep books at home. And if it's a magazine, it's probably not age appropriate. So it's just important to be able to have access to age appropriate books. And that's why the library is so great.
And our early childhood specialists here always recommend too, if students are having a hard time reading themselves, is listening to the audiobooks as well, which is the same thing as listening to your parent or guardian reading to you. So that's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. It sounds like you're making a huge impact with kids at home, and we really appreciate that.
For sure.
Thank
I mean,
you
we
so
would have
much.
had to buy those books. I mean, there's no way we would have been able to get the 3,000 with our resources here. So that really helped us out a ton.
You're absolutely welcome, and thank you for partnering with us. That was an amazing opportunity, and we hope to just do it bigger and better. Hopefully this is something and a partnership that we can continue.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So as a reading lover and a book lover yourself, what are some of your favorite books?
As a child, I loved, of course, Judy Blume, and I loved anything by R.L. Stine, the whole Goosebumps. And I love like horror movies and stuff like that, so that just kind of makes sense. But as a kid, I mean, and now I read a variety of books. I'm about to start Everybody's Got Something by Robin Roberts. I loved Redefining Realness by Janet Mock. Callous on My Soul by Dick Gregory. I mean, I'm just kind of into a lot of different things. So I'm kind of open. I was at the store the other day and I'm like grabbing a book and my husband's looking at me like, really? You're going to add to the collection? I'm like, yes.
Yeah, you can tell him those statistics about having books at home and how important it is.
And so I might have some that I haven't quite finished yet, but I'm like, I just, got to keep that library growing.
Yep, absolutely. What do you think makes a great book? What are you looking for when you read?
When I read, I think I look for characters or themes that I can connect with. And sometimes they come in some of those. I mean, even if you're reading something that's sci-fi or romance, I think, being able to find that character or that theme or a moment in that storytelling that you can have, have your own moment and say, oh, I can relate to that. That speaks to me. But I love reading books that when I walk away and I close that last page and I'm like, wow,
Right.
And it just kind of takes you over and you just have to kind of sit back and soak it in like, wow, that was a powerful work. So.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think books build empathy in a way that no other art form can because of that connection to the character. And I think that's such a wonderful thing to impart to children too.
Yes. Being able to know your truth and live in that truth. And I think books do an amazing job of allowing people to do that with no filter.
Yeah. And you can see your truth reflected back to you on the page, and that can be so powerful.
Yes.
Right. You talked a little bit about the one-room library you grew up in. Tell us some of your favorite things about the library.
The smell.
Yes.
The smell of the books. The smell of the books. And in my library, we had a little sweet little librarian, and I remember she used to have a basket near the front door, and it had coupons in it. So it might be a coupon for like Raisin Bran, whatever she clipped out of the Sunday paper, she would leave it there because, again, you have to understand my town, a lot of low-income families, and so I guess that was her way of like making sure you had just 50 cents off here, 25 cents off there. So I always would look forward to her. She would would hand me that basket, and I get to pick around and figure out like which coupon I was going to take for the week. And I used to love the child craft books, and I love doing the Where's Waldo puzzle.
Oh yeah.
And you know what? Shout out to my mom, because I know I read the same books. It wasn't that many options, so I'm sure I read the same books over and over and over. And she just let me have at it and let me read to her over and over and over again and find Waldo a million times. And she just let me do it. So shout out to my mom.
Even after you memorized where he was, you
Exactly.
still went back and felt good every time you found him.
Of course, yeah. Instant gratification when you find Waldo.
Exactly.
So we asked this at the end of all of our interviews, but we'd love to know, when you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Well, I thought I was going to be a teacher. I knew I liked explaining things, and also growing up with an educator, But my mom and my family tells me when I was about 6 years old, I would get all my stuffed animals and I would line them up on the couch, and then I would get a hairbrush and I would get a Jet magazine and act like I was Oprah or Connie Chung and read to my stuffed animals. And so she was like, "We saw that you were going to be a journalist or an anchor lady or a talk show host or something," but they didn't want to necessarily put that concept in my head or that idea on me. And instead, I kind of found it for myself when I was around 13. I took one of those personality quizzes at school, and then journalists popped up. And I was like, I love reading, I love writing, I love explaining things to people. Boom, this is what I want to do. But my mom, when they told me that, I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, you used to pretend you were like Oprah. I'm Leslie Stahl. I'm like, what? And I would love watching the news as a kid. Back in the day, for dinner time, you sat around the table together and you watched the news. We didn't have cable. Again, we didn't have money, so cable was not something we had, but we watched regular TV and we watched the news every night at 6 o'clock. And so I grew up learning and knowing the news folks and looking forward to it every day.
Right.
But yeah, apparently I was pretending to do this at a very
Your
young
whole
age.
life.
I
Wow.
know.
That's incredible.
That is amazing.
Well, we're so glad that you connected those dots and
Yes.
became who you are today.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
Yes.
you so much for joining us on Completely Booked today. It's been so much fun having you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the work that you all do to help promote the public library, because it is a jewel and a resource in our community.
Absolutely. And we heard you're going to be back for maybe a closing party for summer learning.
I hope so, and I
Okay,
hope
good.
that we're able to also follow some of these families and kids that are going to be getting books from Tenika's Books for Kids, so that I think it's important for the community to see, hey, you donated these books, and this is who you're helping. This is where these books are going. So hopefully you guys will see more of me.
Yes, we can't wait. Thank you so much.
Thank you.